Next, we're going to talk about job safety, productivity, and satisfaction. Those are the three things that the next speaker builds on. He is the youngest recipient of National Safety Educator Award in 2012, and he teaches here at Whitewater in the College of Business. So this program came together and is part of our College of Business building. You'll meet our colleagues here. We work with them. And Todd Loushine is going to tell you about the three constraints of safety, productivity, and job satisfaction. Todd's passion is about home remodeling. That's what he likes to do. And I told him that as soon as this is over, I'm going to sign him up to help me with some work in summer. But for now, you get to hear him talk about safety in workplace.
When you hear the term occupational safety and health, I'm curious what comes to mind. Probably OSHA, compliance, other unpleasantries in the workplace. And that's a very almost narrow and limiting view. And so what I'm going to do over the next 10 minutes is try to convince you that there is a lot of potential, untapped potential, if we practice safety properly. Every year, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics publishes reports on where fatalities occur, the causes of fatalities, and the same with the non-fatal injury and illnesses. And we study that here, and businesses look at this. The problem is, I think it unfairly stereotypes certain industries or causes us to sort of blanket and just focus on certain things. I started my career as a compliance officer with OSHA. That's how I cut my teeth in safety. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you today comes from a culmination of over 20 years of experience, studies, research. And this one figure here from the report is interesting because it kind of encapsulates a lot of things. That when I was a compliance officer, I was doing enforcement work. But I was hearing and I was listening to the workers, listening to management, and I noticed things. That there's more like these social aspects of an organization, or the relationships, we'll say relationships. And that's what seemed to be more indicative of a safe workplace than all the compliance and programs and rules and all this stuff. And as you'll see here, smaller companies have much lower accident rates than bigger companies. They don't have the resources. They probably don't even have a safety professional working for them. Why is that? Well, I noticed that it was people trusted each other. They talked to each other. They knew how to work around the constraints of work or have the control or autonomy to redesign their own work to mitigate the hazards that are there. In 2009, I was lucky enough to be asked to be that lead safety volunteer for the show Extreme Makeover Home Edition. So up in northern Wisconsin, I was called on a Friday afternoon. They said, we've been calling around. You were recommended. Of course, I'm a professor, so I'm sitting around, right? Just kidding. No, I wasn't. But I said, sure, I'll help out. What do I have to do? They said, well, on Monday, we're going to be knocking on the family's door, and you need to supply 2 safety professionals on site 24/7 for that week. Okay, lucky I have a lot of friends. I tapped into my resources. Within 72 hours, I had a full schedule of safety professionals who are going to be on site at all times. Now, what's interesting about this is that we didn't come in and go, okay, here are the OSHA standards, follow them. What we did is, I set up some principles. Those principles being, let's help people. We're not going to force people to do this. We're going to help people. Somebody doesn't have head protection, we're going to bring it to them. Somebody needs help lifting something, we're going to help lift. But more importantly is we had to protect the non-skilled volunteers on site. The people who clamored to be on a TV show, they were our biggest hazard. And so we started a training program for them. And then we had them only go on site when they are mentored or supervised by one of the experts, the people who were construction folk volunteering. And we were very successful with this. And the other thing that I did is I instituted a journal. So that each group that handed off to the next group saw what the previous group did, understood the training, maybe things they found, and it actually evolved as it went through. And you have to do that with a construction site because the construction site evolves. And so we were very successful, and we provided this family with a wonderful new home, which they gratefully accepted. What I want to share with you now is 7 principles, or I call my philosophy on safety. And I think it really will give you insight into how I practice, how I teach, and how I research safety. A very, I don't even call it new, but an innovative look at it. Safety is an attribute of work. And what I mean by that is I picture everything as a system. So there's elements that are interacting with each other, and it's complex. And if we oversimplify a complex issue, we're not going to solve it. We're going to be wrong. No offense to Occam. No, okay, wow, flat. But it all started really with the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution gave birth to the work organization. People working together for a specific purpose, but there's a lot of complexities there. We had new forms of technology, and we still have new forms of technology. We have new chemicals. We have new issues. And how are we allowing the individuals who are hired to do specific tasks? Do we give them the tools, the knowledge in order to be successful? That they can ask for help when they need it, where they can take time to go get the right tool, or to control their own work environment so they can mitigate whatever hazards are there or avoid the exposure. And so if we take safety out of work, if we take it out of the design of work, unmoor it from that, we're going to be unsuccessful. And it's going to make the job not as fun. And it's going to make our relationships, it's going to destroy them, and we're not going to communicate. And then all things go mad, not just safety. I said bad, not mad. Sorry about that. I believe all workers want to do a good job, at least initially when they're first hired. The problem is if we don't give them the opportunity to get some satisfaction, to feel appreciated for the work they do, or if we don't give them an opportunity to succeed, we're not going to achieve that. And I believe safety is linked to people being able to do a good job. And so therefore, if I study work, I study the job itself. But not just that. What's their relationship with coworkers? What's their relationship with their supervisor? How often do they see top management? All these things are very critical to their ability to understand their job completely, to appreciate what they do, to be proud that they're getting something done, and they're doing it in a safe manner. Because you can get something done safely or unsafely. And if safety is removed, and it's incongruent to the work rule, what are workers going to choose? What are supervisors going to choose? They're there to get the work done. If safety's not part of that, well, so be it. All people want to be treated fairly. That's fairly consistent. I know there are theory out there, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've probably heard of that. B.F. Skinner's ABC model. Fine, good. I believe Adam's equity theory explains more why people change their attitude and behavior and do certain things than anything else. You've heard of a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. That's the foundation of it. Back in the 60s, Adams came up with that. It's been extended in the 80s by Greenberg to organizational justice. If we perceive injustice or unfairness, that greatly affects us and our relationships at our workplace, which in turn affects our communication in the workplace, which in turn allows things to go bad very quickly if we don't do something about it. People do not try to get hurt. They're trying to get a job done. And if we don't consider all aspects of the job, which could lead to exposure, I know you guys are starting to see the pictures, and it happens. But they don't intend to get hurt. Going back to fairness, we have this inert desire. It's called the fundamental attribution error. That when we see someone get hurt, we blame them. We do that. But when you're the one who got hurt, you can usually identify external factors that led to it. That's what I'm talking about. The design of work, external factors that are complex and interacting. But if we blame someone and they got hurt because they're trying to do a good job, and safety is not there, and we blame them, that really affects them. That affects the entire social fabric of an organization, and that's something I've studied. If I had more time, I would definitely share all that with you, but believe me, people do not want to get hurt. We need to make them so they can do their job successfully and really be excited about what they're doing, but do it in a safe manner as well. If we assume that all workers have everything they need to get their job done successfully, we're wrong. We need everybody to be successful. If not, then somebody has to make up for it. Organizations are only successful as the success of each individual. That's how I approach safety. Sounds different, doesn't it? It is. I want everybody to be able to get their job done. And because nothing is static. Things change day in and day out. We have new workers coming in. We have new technology coming in. It's a constant effort to understand what may be preventing someone from being successful or affects some relationship within an organization, because all that affects safety. It affects productivity. It affects satisfaction. I'm highly analytical. I measure a lot of things. And by doing so, and by looking at the work system itself, I can understand safety from multiple factions. I'm not just going to justify a change in the work because OSHA might come in and cite it. No, that's not a good justification. I can link it to productivity. I can link it to savings. If someone gets hurt, that's going to slow things down. That's going to affect mindset of people. One example, but this is throughout my entire life. When my kids see a commercial on a new toy, they're like, Daddy, we want that. I'm like, here, fill out this form here about what you think the quality will be, how much you'll play with it, and I'll see if I can cost justify it. You know you can make kids like old toys by repurposing them as Christmas gifts? Just saying. Not Santa, but Christmas gifts. They don't know. I am concerned by a heightened attention to people wanting to adopt what other companies are doing because they're successful. I believe it's the journey we go on, it's the techniques that we replicate every day with a focus on improving the work, improving the success of the individual, which ultimately creates a functional safety program. But too often people are trying to buy it, the magic pill, the silver bullet. I'm saying right here and now, we can't buy a safety program. We can't say, oh, there's a safe organization and mimic what they do, because we will fail. We have to go through a journey in order to get there. So, almost ending on time, what I want to share with all of you, we are new to the business school. We are the envy of a lot of safety degree programs around the US. There is enormous potential here. I've got several student groups out serving companies right now, building their safety program from the roots up. We've got interns who we've been very lucky with the number of offers. We have interns going out before they're doing their capstone. This summer, I've got a lot of non-safety students taking my intro safety course. So I really want UW-Whitewater to be the beacon of southern Wisconsin for class projects, for practical research, for interns. And I see more and more how safety can actually be improving or providing management students, human resource students. By the way, there's a lot of potential for human resource students who have a safety background. I'm telling you, I get people contact me with job offers all the time. I just don't know anybody yet. But the idea is we should be the next generation that is going to really serve the safety field. Because right now, we can do a lot better. And I think here at Whitewater, we can offer that to, our community. Any questions?
We probably need you to stand up.
Yes. Todd, thank you.
Yeah.
You talked about smaller companies having less injuries and so on, and larger companies having more, and your explanation was that people are more likely to trust each other in smaller companies. Or are smaller companies doing maybe safer things? I'm just curious why, and you're right, larger companies have teams of lawyers to fight for them and so on, and you'd think that they would have better records. So I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I actually observed it when I was doing compliance work, that I was doing an inspection at this small machine shop, very small. They had no safety person. The owner was the accountant, was HR, was safety and everything. No programs. As a compliance officer, I'm like, ching, 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 I'm going to get them all. But when I went around and started meeting the workers and talking to them, the workers knew where the hazards were, but they were able to work around them. And it was because they trusted each other and they communicated that no injuries had occurred within a 12-year span of this company. Whereas from a compliance perspective, I was stumped. And it was actually that experience that drove me to go to grad school to study the social sciences and get advanced degrees in industrial engineering. So I really believe in this.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think companies have made a leap to taking this proactively, or are they much more still based on compliance and doing it out of compliance? Or do you think that movement has started where they're aware and they're actually doing this proactively?
I think we could do more to be proactive. I think we are moving beyond compliance for the most part. But I don't think we fully understand the potential. There's so much more there, which is why, I really need to get out there and present this more and publish more on it, because when I talk to people, they're like, yes, this is exactly what we need to do. And it actually makes things easier. And you have more successes, more benefits. It's just, we're at a crossroads right now, the safety field. I'm actually on a national committee right now, task force, that we're trying to redefine what safety is and what we can offer to companies. And so there's going to be a lot of changes within the next decade, but I see it as being what I just presented just now.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay? Oh.
One more question.
So you talked about the larger companies typically not being as safe. Are there examples of large companies that you found in your research that are safer, and is it because they're incorporating the kind of things you're talking about that the smaller companies do sort of naturally?
I wouldn't say naturally. I think it takes a conscious effort to try and get people, especially within the work environment, to trust each other. Because we unintentionally treat people unsafe. We do it all the time. And that inhibits the communication. But the safety professional has the ability to go in and find where that stuff is. I've got several survey instruments that I use to detect where there are these miscommunications, distrust, resentment, because that's what we call it, culture, climate, stuff like that. We're not going to get into it. Big organizations can achieve it, definitely. But it does take a lot of work, because as you grow in size, the complexities grow. And you may have to institute forms of technology to supplant the absence of face-to-face interaction. Okay? Does that answer?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.